Welcome to the Switchrpg podcast. I am one of your hosts, Gio, and I'm joined by Just Johnny.
Hey, what's up?
There he is. If this is your first time listening to this show from Switchrpg.com, where we bring you the latest in the world of RPGs on the Nintendo Switch. This week, we are talking about some things going on at Switchrpg.com, as well as our decade of RPGs to play, which is a fairly substantial list. We break it down to, I think, 20.
Yep, 20 games, and we have almost 20 honorable mentions.
Our honorable mentions list is just as long as our 20 RPGs to play. I mean, it was a good year for RPGs, a good decade for RPGs.
Good
anyway.
decade, yeah, very good decade.
But first and foremost, I want to thank our patrons, Hedge Knight Mike Sprinklins, DJ Atkins, Michael C., and Sequel Violist. Oh, I gotta ask him, how do I say this?
Sequel Violist.
Okay. I don't know. Is it a sequel?
Sequel.
Okay, sequel. But first, I want to... we have another AMA. We did have one recently with Per Schneider from IGN, which went really well, I think. It lasted about an hour. Per was really very nice to join us. I think he had a good time. Actually, everyone who joined in on that AMA on the Discord had a question or two that were answered, and it went really well. Well, we have another one. We have Dead Mage Studios coming in, the developers who made Children of Morta. They'll be joining on January 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you head over to our Discord, which is discord.switchrpg.com, you can join in. Ask them a question. I think, I don't know how many people will be joining on their side, but there will be more than one. So you could have some developers, some composers, who knows? But these AMAs are always a good time. So
hopefully some artists, because they have some good art in that game.
There's that's what really drew me in initially to that was the art. So
and good writing too. Mm-hmm. Like just how they piece together the story sequences.
Yeah, it seems like the story just doesn't end. Like they're constantly giving you something in that game. Yeah. But like I said, what drew me into that game was visually. It looked really, really cool. Dead Mage Studios, developers of Children of Morta, January 6th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we have, what are you playing?
What am I playing? Oh, man, I finally beat Fire Emblem.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a couple weeks since we last recorded our podcast. So you finally beat Fire Emblem. You had a lot of time to yourself.
Yes.
Play this.
And over that time, while not eating and just playing, putting my head down and trucking along through, it took me 180 hours.
So one house, 180 hours.
One house.
And you're on to the next house?
No.
Oh, right.
No. I did buy the season pass for DLC.
Oh, right.
So maybe I'll jump in later because, oh man, the story is so good. But keep in mind, I also played on hard, so if I do play again, I'm not playing on hard.
No, you just want the action bits, but you want to get through the story a little quicker.
When you beat it, I unlocked, what was it, like Madman or Insane difficulty or whatever it is.
Why would you want to do that to yourself?
Like
after spending so much time, like getting an insane difficulty just seems like...
Yeah, I'm not doing that. But yeah, it is really good. I'm telling you this right now, Golden Deer, if you want like the big picture of everything storyline wise, Golden Deer is the house to go to. That seems like it's the true ending to the game.
You think so?
I really think so. So I know what happens on the Blue Line, and I definitely know what happens on the Golden Deer because I played all of it. And the only thing I'm not too certain of with Gaping Holes is the Black Eagle.
The Black Eagles, yeah. I played the Black Eagle side of things, and she I don't want to spoil it, so I'm going to just stop myself there. But I could see where you would say the Golden Deer is kind of like the seer of all.
Yeah.
So
it's a big when you understand Claude and who Claude is, he's all about trying to like unveil the truth behind everything. And because of his personality, that drives the nature of the story for the Golden Deer. Even though the rest of the Golden Deer people are not like Claude, Claude himself is that kind of a person. And because of that, you actually find out like all the things that are happening behind the scenes, all the questions that you might have after beating the game through especially blue lines. You might have a lot of questions like being maybe a little unsatisfied with the ending, because the blue line, they have their own, that story is its own agenda. And Golden Deer, it doesn't get as in-depth, it doesn't get as emotional, it definitely doesn't get as emotional as the blue line story. But if you want to understand things and get a good grasp of the story and the big picture, and figure out kind of like a Game of Thronesy type of way, like a Tyrion Lannister type of thing,
kind of in the middle of everything, basically.
Yeah. Just be like, why are these things happening? Like, Golden Deer is the way to go, because everything gets explained. Absolutely everything gets explained, from the very, very opening of the game to the very, very end. Everything that you experience, Golden Deer.
Okay.
Golden Deer gives it.
So for anyone who hasn't played, that would be probably the better. You would say. Better option.
I think it's probably the best option. Although, what happens with the blue lines is just really, that is a very interesting character, Dimitri, and that type of experience is its own thing and is very much worthwhile. I was kind of a little bit jealous of what happens there, because it was just so like hits you in the chest kind of
Right.
thing, but and. Trust me, like Black Eagle, not taken away from that, because that, when you understand everything, you still have so many questions about the Black Eagles. There's just still like, why is the Black Eagles doing is doing stuff? And
I mean, it's really difficult, especially when you got 3 choices to make. And you don't know, really. It's so early in the game, you don't really know who to choose. I mean, it's almost like you go on all right, I'll choose, I like yellow, I'll pick yellow, or whatever. Like, there's really no reason why you choose one over another, really.
Well, you do get that little, you do get to go around to each of the houses and talk to all the different members of the house.
Yeah.
And you get to see, get a general feel. You don't get a true feel.
But it's really, in my opinion, it's just not enough to, I don't know, especially with the outcome. Yep. There's no sneak peek that'll give you the outcome on any of these houses.
Yeah. And that's kind of good, because for example, one house in particular, it kind of like flips the table on you halfway through the game in a very interesting way. And actually, pretty much all the houses except for the Golden Deer. The Golden Deer doesn't really have any table flipping moments. There's no big surprises that happens with the that happens because the Golden Deer are making these surprises happen, whereas these surprises happen in more interesting ways with the other 2 houses, and the Golden Deer is impacted, but they're not the driving force behind any of these things. So it can also feel like they're a little detached from a more interesting, emotional driven story. The Golden Deer is not as emotion driven as the other houses.
Right. They're kind of the bystanders, basically.
Yep.
Cool.
So they're all good picks.
They really are, and it's a shame, because it's such a big time sink that you can't experience all those stories.
I would say just play the game on easy at this point,
and experience everything. You think?
Yeah, I mean, because all the stories are definitely worthwhile, especially when you get to the halfway point of the game, and that from that point forward, the stories take a huge deviation, and they become their own thing, and very, very worthwhile to experience with each of the different houses. So if you play on easy, you can kind of get through things even quicker, and because the story is just so well done in this game and so well fleshed out, because everything that happens within the world, within these 3 different stories, and they do deviate very dramatically, it is worth experiencing again, especially with just the characters you recruit in their individual backstories, the individual characters for each of the houses.
And I think that's what makes Fire Emblem a great game anyway, is the story. The battles are kind of, they're a little samey. They're, wipe the party out. They're all the same to me. So I think where Fire Emblem really shines is the story.
Yep.
So playing it on easy it's an okay option.
I would say where this Fire Emblem really
Right.
holds up is the story. Because previous Fire Emblems, the story's okay. It's not really why you play those Fire Emblem games. It was the simplicity of the combat, but also the way it presented this RPG like combat for a war game. That was the novelty of Fire Emblem. And they didn't really change up that formula for like, I don't know, 15, 20 plus years. And with this game, they really changed up the form. They've been slowly changing up the formula, but with this game, they really ramped it up. They really changed it, even in the battle, right? They got rid of the weapon triangle system and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the different mechanics that they've implemented. It's just the objectives are all the same.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally with you. But this is a special game, and we'll talk more about it later.
Way later.
Other games I've played, I also beat Celeste. Only took me 7 hours to beat.
Okay.
That is.
I hear good things about that game.
That game is really, really good. Really overrated.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I was expecting, on average, the game is at like 92% on like OpenCritic and Metacritic and whatnot. Like IGN gave it a perfect 10. So I'm expecting like, 10, somewhere in the 90s type of experience. And is the game a solid platformer? Absolutely. Is the story phenomenal? No. Is it interesting? It's all right. It talks about depression. There's been many other games that have talked about depression and made depression the center focal point of their story, and done it significantly better. Like just significant. What was that game? Doki Doki Literature Club. Like, to me, that is one of the best games that sort of dive very deep into topics of mental issues, mental disorders, and
there was one recently.
There's a bunch.
Yeah, there was quite a bit. Okay, yeah,
but it is a solid platformer experience. The story, look, it's not bad at all, and it presents it in a much more lighthearted way. I would say it's a little bit too it can be a little bit too lighthearted for such a dark topic, but I mean, that's a matter of perception. So, to me, as long as someone tackles the subject of depression,
brings it to the kind of the forefront a little bit.
Bring in no matter what form, that's fine. But to give this game a boost, a kudos boost because of that, no.
It's also an independent developer.
Sure. Look, it's a great game. It's just I was my expectations were set really, really high for the praise that the game got, for the Game of the Year awards that this game got a few years ago when it released, and I was disappointed by not having it live up to those standards. But it is a solid platformer.
Sure.
Absolutely. And I also beat Grease, another game, very short game, only like 3 or 4 hours, probably about 4 hours long.
Okay.
Artsy.
Yeah, this
very
game
artsy game.
Very interesting to me.
It is beautiful. This game is walking art. It's pretty simple to play. You cannot die in this game. You just keep going. There's no bad things you can do. You just keep going until you win. It's very platformer heavy, but even the heaviest of platformer elements doesn't even come close to like the first chapter of Celeste. So it's like still pretty simple platforming. There's some light puzzle solving in there. You're not going to scratch your head too much.
Is there a narrative behind this all?
There is. It's kind of hard to understand what the story is. It seems like a very big metaphor for a whole lot of different stuff, but mostly at the very, very beginning of the game, your character, I don't know the name of the girl, but she loses her voice, and also in the process of losing her voice, the world loses its color. And you're exploring this world and piecing together, collecting these, I guess, stars, like constellation stars, and you add them to the sky, and you also, I guess, sing to the statue, and for every one that you sing to, you unlock a new color for the world, and that brings the world closer to life. So first you get red, then you get green, then you get blue, then you get other colors, and that also adds new platformy type of elements to the world itself.
Sure.
So it's a very awe-inspiring game. It's definitely I'm definitely glad I picked that game up and played it, because it was a great experience. It reminded me a lot of Journey.
Okay.
It's kind of like another Journey-like experience without the multiplayer stuff. So if you want that like emotional, artsy type of presentation, not challenging at all. But if you want that, and also it's 2D instead of being 3D, so it's in some instances it's a bit more accessible to non-gamers than Journey is, because Journey has that third-person camera that you have to sort of that people that don't normally play video games can struggle with. But the platforming is probably a little bit more difficult, a little bit, just because there are like time jumps for difficulty, but it's super forgiving. So it's a game that you can kind of let my parents actually yesterday I had both my parents play through different parts of this game.
That's pretty cool,
and they weren't doing that bad. They're actually progressing through the game. And
I mean, they played Mario Brothers, so I mean, it's a platformer. They can kind of figure it all out.
Yeah, I would say the platforming in Mario is definitely harder than the platforming in
really
Greece.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they've mastered it in Mario Brothers, they could
definitely beat Greece. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's a beautiful game, and it's short. It's super short. It's a really
that's
good
on the
experience.
Switch, right?
It's on the Switch, and it's on sale.
On sale
Yeah,
now.
We'll talk more about sales.
All right, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. And then I've also been playing, I've been playing so many games, but I finally finished Fire Emblem, and so now I have like all this free time.
What do you do with yourself?
I don't have to play Fire Emblem anymore. I got the Halo Master Chief Collection on PC.
Yeah.
So I've been playing through Halo Reach. That game is awful.
So you're done with it then?
I think I'm going to beat it, because I think you have to beat that in order to play Halo 1, because it goes in order storyline wise. So first you have to play through Reach, and then you could play Halo 1, 2, 3.
Wait, there's a literal block where you cannot play it, or?
Well, it shows all the Halo games, and right now the only one that's lit up for me that's not grayed out is Halo Reach. So I'm playing through Halo Reach,
that seems terrible.
Hoping that when I beat Halo Reach,
you didn't just buy Halo Reach.
No, it's the Master Chief Collection. It shows you all of them.
That makes zero sense. Why would anyone want to like block off their? That makes zero sense.
Well,
to me.
the multiplayer is open, right? The campaign stuff is blocked off. I don't know. Maybe it's a staggered launch. I could have that confused too. It might be like a staggered launch where Reach
is available right now,
and then maybe like a couple months the next Halo game will unlock. But I'm gonna go through and get through Reach. It's not like super bad, but man, it's like so like phoned in. It feels like it's phoned in, and I haven't played any. That's like one of my guilty like gamer.
You've never played Halo, or
I've played various Halo games, but I never beat any of them.
Okay.
And I never even came close to like.
Yeah, I played it with friends. That's the only way I've ever played Halo, and I am absolutely terrible at Halo multiplayer. Forget about it.
And to me, like I feel compelled. Like Halo's always been on my bucket list of games, because it is a major, very important game, especially Halo 1. So eventually I want to beat Halo 1. That's the whole reason why I got the thing, was so I can play and actually beat Halo 1, and maybe I'll continue depending on how good Halo 1 is. But right now, Reach, oof.
Eesh. I guess you got to get through it. Maybe. Who knows? And
I've also been playing Astral Chain. I finally got back into that because I don't have to play Fire Emblem anymore, and Astral Chain is great.
I want to play Astral Chain. I think we were talking about this before. Yeah. If that's ever on a sale, like a deep sale, I'm gonna instant buy for me, because
it's worth buying regardless of the sale.
Right, and that's just me thing.
It is super good. It feels like accumulation of a bunch of different platinum games all wrapped into one. It feels like Bayonetta. It kind of has like the dodge mechanics of Bayonetta. It has the sword slicing mechanic of that Metal Gear Revengeance.
Yeah.
Has that mechanic in there. It has other like action-y type things, and then that weird chain system is like it is its own mechanical beast
Right.
altogether, and it's really cool. It's very hard. The game has a pretty steep learning curve to sort of get used to the combat mechanics, because you are at most of the time controlling two characters at the same time, and all of your attacks and abilities are mapped to your all four shoulder buttons. So you have to manage all four of those.
Wow.
In addition to the right stick, when you're holding on to the left Z button, ZL, you can use the right stick to move your chained astral companion thing, and you can use it to like wrap around enemies. You can like set up a little thing to like clothesline enemies and like do like other weird stuff.
It sounds like a game I'd be 100% into.
Yeah, so it has that learning curve, and I would say that is it's very hard to get through, but definitely get through, because once you start to get a handle of it, the combos that you're able to do and the ways that you're able to sort of get through, it's really cool. And then the world itself, which like games like Bayonetta always like lost me, because it never had an interesting like game that was outside of just doing the combat. The combat was great in Bayonetta, but there was nothing more than just the combat. It was just combat, and then you move on to the next area. In this game,
combat area.
next combat area. This game wraps everything in this big giant like cop detective meta game, where you get to explore the precinct, and then you're going into doing different police missions, and you're doing like detective work. So it has like that stuff going for it too, and then you can level up and do RPG like stuff in there. So very cool game. I am definitely enjoying what I've been playing so far. I'm probably about 7 hours into that game.
Okay. It's just scratching the surface, I bet.
Yeah. Been playing another game. I just picked it up today. It's like less than $1.
Oh, jeez.
It's called a Robot Named Fight, and it's a roguelike Metroid game.
Like what kind of Metroid are we talking?
Like Metroid.
Like 8-bit Metroid? Are we talking, or
Super Metroid.
Super Metroid. Okay, so
But I would say graphically, it's more like Sega Genesis style graphics.
okay.
If you can ever notice the difference between Sega Genesis,
Oh,
and
the color.
Super Nintendo.
Yeah, the color palettes.
Yeah,
are
it
different.
looks more like and kind of feels like playing wise as a Genesis style game. It's like your jump is actually like kind of quick. Your movement is a little quick too. At first, it feels like a little janky, but then you get used to it. And it's like, and it's not as janky as you think it is, and it feels kind of good. It's interesting to play a Metroid game that every time you die, you're starting the world map all over again. So you have to
that's kind of difficult to do, especially in a Metroidvania where you're used to specific items being in specific areas.
Yep.
To unlock certain areas. Like how do you even manage that when the world's just totally changing?
procedurally, yeah. And I died. I've gotten pretty far ahead in my first run and died twice, and each run I was wondering like, how are they going to maintain? Is it going to be I'm always going to get this item first and that item? And it's like, no, they changed it pretty dramatically, but in a very good way. There was even some rooms where I thought like, oh, I've seen this room layout before. I just go this way and I'll get these things, and all of a sudden I go that way and it's like very different. I'm like, oh, all
no.
right. So I'm digging it. I'm definitely digging it.
Okay.
And then the last game I've been playing this game very, very heavy, is called Age of Wonders. This is a PC strategy. I call it an RPG. At least the campaign is definitely an RPG. But it's also like war, strategy, sim type of elements to this game as well. The combat system is a hex-based, turn-based combat system where you're moving across hexes, and you have multiple units within your war party, and you can sort of have multiple war parties all participate in the same battle. So there's 7 possible hexes. Each hex can have 6 units, so you can have 42 units on the same battle map. We're talking like large scale, epic fantasy warfare. There's dragons, there's fairies, there's on trolls.
PC?
It's on PC.
Along with Robot Named Fight. That's also...
No, that's on Switch.
A Robot Named
Fight's on Switch.
Oh.
Yep. Astral Chain's on Switch.
Yep.
Celeste is on Switch.
Halo
Grease
Reach
is on Switch.
soon, maybe.
Halo Reach.
Well, I mean, there's been rumors for the Master Chief Collection coming to the Switch. So,
But Age of Wonders 3, that has been a very pleasant surprise. That game is, I'm definitely loving that game. So that has been what I've been playing, which is a lot of stuff, and finally beating a bunch of stuff.
well, I mean, like I said, we had a couple of weeks where we weren't recording. You beat a big heavy hitter of a game, and now you have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
It seems. Where I've been playing like the same thing.
Yeah,
Well, maybe a little different because
more Divinity, right?
More Divinity, always more Divinity. Can't go wrong with that. More Divinity, Star Ocean, First Departure R. Been doing a little bit of Super Mario Maker 2 with my son.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yep, Super Mario Maker 2. It's fun making maps and how, because he is 6 years old, right? So his mindset is just like put a bunch of stuff everywhere. So I'm trying to teach him, and Super Mario Maker has like a story mode where it tries to teach you how to build a level and all that.
Yep.
So I'm trying to get him to do that, but I'm also, trying to teach him how to build it without the story mode. So just me teaching him, and for some reason I can explain it better to him.
Yeah.
He's getting the hang of it. There are some levels that he downloads where he absolutely loves. Kind of most of the auto, because there are auto runs.
Yeah.
Where you just go and you basically run through the entire level and it completes itself. He loves those because he loves seeing the explosions and everything. So I've been doing Super Mario Maker 2 with him, and that's pretty much it.
And you're completely done with Luigi's Mansion, right?
No, I'm not, because I'm playing that along with him too, and he's moved on to Super Mario Maker 2. So,
Okay.
so I don't want to advance the story without him. So once he gets back into Luigi's Mansion 3, I will also get back into Luigi's Mansion 3. But we're almost done. I think we have like 2 more floors.
Yep.
We're almost there.
What about so tell me a little more about Star Ocean, because
Star Ocean, it was a PS Vita game. They remastered it, and it's a good game. It's an okay game.
well, the Vita game was a remake of the Super Nintendo game.
Oh, so we're going way back in time.
This is originally a Super Nintendo game, and it was a correction. And I mentioned this, but I also unmentioned it. I got it right initially, then I got it wrong.
The developer.
Yeah, so it was the people first made, the Namco team first made Tales of Fantasia, and then they left, key people left, and formed a new studio that then made the Star Ocean series. So I could definitely recognize from watching the trailers of the combat and whatnot that I saw very clearly, like there was some degree of Tales DNA within there. And I just didn't know which chicken came before the egg. But now we know Tales of Fantasia was definitely the OG.
And you definitely see that Tales of inspiration when playing it. You definitely feel it. And I think they missed out on a couple of things. I love the combat. I love the skills. I love learning all the special arts and all that stuff. There are a lot of different ways you can go with recruiting members. So if you don't recruit one member, you have opportunity to recruit different members. So there's a lot of that in it, and I like that. But being a remastered version, they missed out on something that I really think is there. That's not there is the ability to fast travel, because you're always backtracking, and man, these random encounters really slow down that experience. And I really wish it was there. And I understand why it is not there, because you'd miss out on all that XP with with those battles, and you eventually hit a wall not being at the proper level. But man, traveling, and you do have a fast speed option, so you can speed up your character when traversing, but give me the ability to fast travel. It just needs to be there. But otherwise, it's voiced well. I love the look of it. It's not quite. It's
voiced well. You were complaining about that earlier.
The voiceover
Last time we talked.
Oh, I stand corrected.
Did you change to Japanese?
I don't. No. See, that's the thing. The voiceover. I'm talking when the characters are in dialogue. But when they're in combat. It's
still have it set to like.
I have it set to as minimal as possible.
No art use.
And don't use any special arts. But yeah, in combat, it's horrendous.
Did you at least try the Japanese voice track?
No, I haven't. Maybe I should.
I don't know.
I'm sure
I was kind of interested to find out.
I'm sure
if it was
it's a
worthwhile.
million times better.
Okay.
But I just don't want them screaming at me every time I get into a random battle, and it's a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's a lot of them, and they're just yelling at you.
Random battles is one thing I am glad died.
and you do get some abilities where you can actually reduce the number of random battles, but they're still there.
Yep.
So Star Ocean. I don't know that I have any other games that I'm looking to play right now.
Well,
You got quite a bit on your plate. I got a small little appetizer compared to you.
Well, I'm on vacation right now, so this is the only time I have to just like crank through stuff. Otherwise, I wouldn't have enough time to beat big giant juggernaut games. Like even within the Master Chief Collection, that's what 6 games.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Halo. That's Reach. Halo 1, 2, 3,
ODST.
and 4. That's 6 games in one.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
It's quite a bit.
I'm already halfway through Halo Reach.
That's crazy.
It's short campaign.
And speaking of which, we'll skip ahead in the news here. We'll go to the holiday sale. So my plate is really small. I could fill it up.
Yeah.
With some of these sales.
Yes, you could.
That are going on. I've seen ridiculous games that are dirt cheap, like Bastion, Transistor.
A robot name fight.
A robot name fight, which I did not know was on the eShop.
It's like 90-something% off, which is why it's like $1.
Yeah. So they're one of those games that put their game really super cheap to ramp up those
Greece,
on the ranking.
Greece and Celeste are both on sale. I would highly recommend, if you haven't played it, Okami HD.
Oh, yeah. I hear a lot of good things about that.
It's an old game, but they HD-ified it.
Yep. So a lot of people compare that game to Zelda. I don't know why. Do you know why?
Because it's Zelda.
Okay. All right. It just doesn't look like it. So you're basically a wolf.
Yep.
And
you're going through, and there are dungeons. You get new abilities. You have to solve puzzles. There's bosses that you have to fight with in the game. There's towns that you can visit. It's kind of like Ocarina of Time sort of style game, but playing as I forgot the name of the wolf. Tamaratsu, something like that.
Okay.
And your big mechanic is you have like a little paintbrush, so you draw in order to.
So it utilizes the motion controls, and
you can do that if you undock the Switch. You can actually touch screen your drawing, which is
even better.
The ideal way.
So I'm looking at some deals here. We got Cave Story Plus, which I hear a lot of good things about. It's $10. Battle Chasers. I like Battle Chasers. That's about $13 right now. I've never seen it that low before. So Battle Chasers is up there. Monster Boy is a light-hearted RPG.
Blaster Master Zero.
I
actually don't know if that's on sale. It says it's $10 right now. Shovel Knight.
A lot of the older Final Fantasies right now are really low. Like Final Fantasy VII. Looks like Final Fantasy IX is really, really low. So
there we go.
If you're looking to fill up your catalog, now is the time.
Yeah, Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition, that is on sale. It's $14. That is a steal. That game is gorgeous, and it's a Metroidvania. I mean, what more do you need? It's probably a little bit on the easier side as far as combat, but a little bit more difficult as far as platforming. Cuphead is also on sale. Slay the Spire is on sale. Baba Is You is on sale.
Baba Is Me?
Baba Is You.
No, you.
Well, you gotta change it up to make it me.
Oh, I'm confused.
It's not me yet.
Graveyard Keeper, which you've talked about.
Yeah, that's a cool game. That's
$7.
It's a very morbid Stardew Valley.
Can't go wrong with $7 on that game.
Terraria. That old, awesome, but still very old game. Downwell. That is on sale. It's $1.50.
Wow, $1.49.
That is such a great, if you want like this arcade play a game for 5 minutes, like have like little tiny spectacular 5-minute chunks of fun, Downwell is just glorious.
Now, there are games on here that I would not recommend, one of which being Mutant Year Zero is $20. Don't fall for that game. Do not buy it on the Switch.
Yeah, don't do it.
It is good on any other platform other than the Switch.
It's meant for PC. So if you're going to play that game, play it on PC. I have it on PC.
Yep. I have it on 360 and PC. I would not get it. It's too bad, though. I love the characters in that game. For the Switch, I don't know what they were doing. Maybe they need to get their eyes checked. There's the whole game is a mess.
Blasphemous. That is a 2D side-scroll Dark Souls-y like game that's on sale.
And if you're unsure about Blasphemous, there's also a demo out for that, so you can take a look at that demo.
SteamWorld Quest, Hand of Gilgamesh, very RPG card-based combat system.
I love that game. Golf Story is $10. Can't go wrong there at all.
Yeah, and we're calling out some like pretty good solid games. Disgaea 5 is looking like it's 50% off. That's gonna be, if you like tactical style
there's
games.
Something here. There's something
even
for
Disgaea
everyone.
1, that's also half off. Those are pretty solid games.
There's a game I'll shout out, Phantom Doctrine. It's
Phantom Doctrine.
It's a tactical strategy RPG game. It's okay. It's $4. I'll just say it's $4. I think it's worth $4 though. We do have I think I did a very short. I know I did a very short Let's Play on the YouTube channel, so you can check that out there.
I would say stay away from Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. As much as I love the Monster Hunter franchise, Monster Hunter World's out, and if that wasn't legitimately the best Monster Hunter game, I would call out this one more. But they also, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate is a shoddy 3DS port to the Switch.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I played the demo, did not hold up well. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, on the other hand, is actually a pretty solid game, also on sale.
On sale, $20. That's like beautiful.
A very long RPG.
Yep. Another one that I played on the channel, Hard West. It's kind of the tactical RPG. It's kind of it's a Western with what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a haunted Western. It's $2. $2. That's crazy.
The entire Resident Evil franchise, I think every single game except for Resident Evil 3 is on the Switch. They're all on sale. I would recommend Resident Evil, the original, the remake, and Resident Evil 4. I'd recommend those two out of all of them that are on there. And whatever price they charge, even if it wasn't on sale, they're all on sale. Even if it wasn't, they're both worth whatever price they charge, because those games are fantastic.
Man, there are so many games on. There's got to be something everyone likes here.
Yep. I mean, just we have shouted out so many games, so there you go. That's pretty good. Let's
Yeah, you can't go wrong. There's something for everyone there. So I guess I got my work cut out for me.
Yeah, some things that happened over the past 2 weeks, right? The Game Awards happened.
Yeah, we never discussed the Game Awards.
We didn't, but we don't have to.
I mean, we did discuss pre-Game Awards and how disappointed we were in some of the categories, some of the nominations. And the winners, we never kind of went over.
Well, the main winner, the overall game of the year, surprised me, but you know what? I'm happy with the decision because I love that game.
Well, yeah, it was Sekiro.
Yep.
And I'm happy it wasn't Death Stranding. That's really what I'm happy about.
Yeah. I'm happy it wasn't Death Stranding or Control.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Control, but with Death Stranding, they just got all the pub. And I think if Death Stranding were to win that category, the Game Awards would have lost a lot of credibility. Yeah.
I still think Smash should have won it over Sekiro, even though I absolutely love Sekiro or Sekiro, whatever. Yeah, Smash is just like a caliber of its own.
But Smash ultimately won their category.
They won the fighting game of the year.
Yeah, so and you'll see that, you'll notice that with a lot of the games, they ultimately won their category.
But it should have won. It should have been nominated for best soundtrack.
I agree,
and it wasn't.
There's
And-
like a million songs in that.
Yeah, the soundtrack's like 1,000 songs plus. It's huge, and it didn't even get nominated, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
But there was some announcements that happened there, and one of the big ones. Well, two of the announcements. One was this new little indie game called Gleamlight. I think it's going to be a Switch exclusive. I'm not entirely sure, but it's a side-scrolly Metroidvania-esque. It looks like it's Metroidvania-esque style game. The artwork is stained glass for the artwork, so it looks kind of beautiful.
It's kind of, it's very artistic.
So that's something to keep wary of. They said it's going to come out sometime early 2020. So, keep your eyes peeled for that. And then the other game, which is pretty exciting.
The game it's the game I'm excited for, Bravely Default 2, which falls into those categories because there's Bravely Default, there's Bravely Bravely Second, and then you got Bravely 2. So where does this kind of fall in line? It goes Bravely Default 1, and I think it goes Bravely Default 2, and then Bravely Second is kind of like I think it's a continuation of basically of Bravely Default, the original, kind of like your Final Fantasy X and X2.
So it's
situation.
like an expansion.
Yeah, basically
Expansion to the first one.
but not as good.
Not you played both?
I played both.
Okay.
And it's not as good.
From what I understand, the combat mechanic of Bravely Default is the combat system that's in Octopath Traveler, more or less. The battle point system, BP.
Yeah, they definitely run off the battle point system, but then they also have this thing where you can either fight Brave or you can fight Default. Where if the default, you save your attacks, and then once you go to attack, you attack like a multitude of times. Or if you use bravely, you have double the attacks, but you miss out on your second turn. So it's got a very, I love the battle mechanic in Bravely Default, and I'm excited to see how they'll expand on that, or if they even change it. I'm not entirely sure what they'll do with it. But in the announcement trailer, there really wasn't much.
Yeah, there was nothing there.
Yeah, it really wasn't much other than just, it's coming out eventually. So
there was something there that what was there is that the artwork wasn't very impressive. It was like HD 3DS artwork.
Well, I don't know that they've changed much from what the 3DS art was.
Yeah.
It does look like that. Even the character models look like it was coming from a 3DS.
Yeah. So that's a little disappointing, but
it is.
If it means that they can focus on making a solid game, then I'm all for that.
And it's a very, in my opinion, it's a very menu-driven game. So the fact that before you had dual screens, and you can actually manage that a little easier. So I'm wondering how they're going to manage that here in the new iteration without a second screen.
That'd be pretty important.
So we'll see.
Another thing. So this is now we're out of the VGAs.
Out of the VGAs.
We have left the VGAs.
2 weeks ago.
Cleansed ourselves of that.
And it's actually been a pretty light news week, considering it's been a couple weeks.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's been a light news week. And that's just the time of year. It's a time of year thing. News is light. Releases are light.
Yeah, Nintendo did do the little indie thing, but I think we covered that last time. Nintendo's been quite tight-lipped on sharing any new information. They didn't announce anything at the VGAs, so
other than those two.
But that wasn't them.
Minor. No, it wasn't them.
Yeah. So they're holding on to something. So there's a shortage because
I think we'll get some sort of a direct soon, whether it's January or I don't think February. I think it'll be sooner than that because I need a roadmap of 2020.
I can definitely see January, either the first half of January. I can definitely see that being a possibility. I'm not sure if it'll actually happen, but definitely a possibility because they have their quarterly report meeting is going to be the end of January. So if they don't have any new announcements by that point, then they have
nothing to show.
Well, they're going to have to tell their shareholders something like, hey, we have these games coming up because
Right.
They got to report something, otherwise shareholders are going to be pretty upset.
And as it is now, they just have Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing, they have Zelda that we know about.
Breath of the Wild, yeah, too.
They have Travis.
Travis Strikes Again, and maybe...
Not Strike Again. No More Heroes 3.
3. And...
Breath of the Wild 2.
Yep. And Metroid Prime, maybe.
But that's so far off.
Yeah, who knows? That's not even
there.
2020.
It's way out there. There is the Monolith Soft game that's not Breath of the Wild and is potentially not a new Xenoblade game. Potentially, they are working on something.
And it was a while back we mentioned it on the podcast. I don't think you weren't with us yet.
I was aware.
It's some sort of high fantasy type of game, so kings, queens, mythical sort of thing, and we just saw some. I think it was just some concept art. That was it. So they're working on potentially could be something like that,
or it could be another Xeno game.
I would mind that, like a Xeno game with some sort of high fantasy type of stuff. Yeah, it'd be different. I would like that.
All right, know what it won't be though.
It won't be
a Xenosaga collection.
It won't be a Xeno, no.
Yeah.
Because what they did is they brought it to their not their investors, but they brought it back to their company. They say, hey, listen, we want to potentially do the Xenogears collection. Yeah. They did some analytics.
Yeah, in like a remaster collection of Xenosaga.
I think there are three games.
Yeah.
1, 2, or 3. And so they did some analytics, and they essentially said that it's just not worth it for them. I disagree. I mean, granted, yes, it is a niche market for them, Xenogears.
Well, Xenosaga, which is
right.
different from Gears. Xenosaga episode 1, 2, and 3, all of which it looks like were on the PlayStation 2. Mm-hmm. So this would be a remaster of those games. So being that those games are running on 3D engines, just by having that higher resolution rendering, that would make things look sharper, better, and hopefully run better too, depending on how well they had the code initially or if they tweaked it. So just that alone would be pretty cool, because emulators are nice. Like you run an emulator on an old N64 game, it'll actually make it look really nice and kind of doable,
right?
For today's standards.
But unfortunately, they said the plan was it's just going to be too difficult, not worth their time or money investment. And it just isn't going to happen. Yeah,
it's not happening. So bye-bye to that. I'm glad Xenosaga got the axe, though, and not Xenogears, because I'm more interested in going into the Xenogears games, but that's still way up for who knows.
Now, what if Xenogear, like say Xenosaga, they're like, yep, we're not going to remaster these things, but they do some reimagining like they're doing with Trials of Mana.
Well, so, all right, this is a little weird because the company that most of the people that made the Xeno games are Monolith Soft,
right?
But this isn't Monolith Soft.
I mean, Monolith Soft does have subsidiaries that they work through with.
The reason why they made Xenoblade is because they couldn't continue the Xeno whatever,
right?
Xenosaga or Xenogears, one of those two, probably Gears. They couldn't continue that series because it belonged to Bandai Namco for the Xenosaga games. I mean, that's what it says here. I'm not sure who owns Xenogears, if that is Bandai Namco or someone else.
Bandai Namco?
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know. I'd have to actually do a little research on that.
But, it's a little disheartening to learn that Xenosaga is definitely not going to be a thing for the foreseeable future, and probably going to be another one that bites dust regarding like old school RPG franchises that could see a resurgence. So that kind of hurts to hear.
It hurts the heart.
Yeah, it does. Hurts the heart. The other thing we have for news, there's a free update for Cadence of Hyrule. I just wanted to mention this because Cadence of Hyrule, free update, it adds a lot of new content. Update. Yeah, it's big. There's a lot of new stuff. There's a new playable character. There's new dungeon modes and additional shrines and a whole bunch of new content. A lot of bug fixes, but the game definitely wasn't buggy the entirety that I played through that game. So, but they did a whole lot of that stuff, and they added in a bunch of new content. So if you haven't played it, now is the best time to play it because there's even more stuff in it.
I have to play it.
The game is amazing.
I have to play it.
It's amazing.
If it's on sale, I'll get it.
It might actually be on sale.
All right, if it's on sale, I'm going to get it.
You totally should. That game is great.
I'm going to do it. Also, another DLC announcement, I guess. Children of Morta. Yep. Getting another more DLC. Or no, getting DLC. Adding a harder difficulty. Why would you want to make that game harder? So New Game Plus, which is cool. A new character. Random encounter. It says no other details other than it means what it says. I don't know what that means. Maybe more difficult bosses? I don't know. Online co-op. That is a cool feature. Online co-op.
Yeah,
because before that it was just
all versions, or is that PC only, or is that Switch only?
I think this is all versions.
That's a big deal.
Online co-op, whereas before it was just local co-op.
Yeah.
Endless mode. And some items and whatnot. Like I said, there's a new playable character. And then a brand new chapter, which is going to be paid DLC. I don't know. This article from RP Gamer does not specify how much that would be. But brand new chapter and a bunch of cool stuff coming into Children of Morta. So, yeah. Excellent.
To a game that's already fantastic to play, and now there's a whole bunch of free stuff and then some additional expansionary content that you can buy afterwards if you're totally digging more.
And like I said, we're also hosting an AMA with them as well.
Yeah.
For upcoming RPGs, there are none.
Yeah.
At least for the next week. I mean, and for the month of January is very, very bare. There are a few indie games of which I don't know off the top of my head. Maybe there were there. I'm not entirely sure, but in January we have Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE Sharp Plus Minus Complete Edition. I have no idea. There's too many. There's way too many things on it. So that is coming out. I think that's in the middle of January sometime.
Skippable.
Well, debatable, I think, for some people. I know some people who are excited for it.
You know who you are. It'll be your jam. Your jam.
That's okay. Everybody's got their jam.
Yes. Some people do like apricot jelly.
Wait, what's wrong with apricot jelly?
Actually, I was trying to think of a weird jelly, and apricot came to mind.
But that's okay.
It's actually kind of fun. Yeah, right. Apricots are fun.
So, yeah, the month of January, like I'd mentioned, it's kind of bare. Yeah. It's just bare. But the list of all lists, the definitive decade...
I should have cleared up some of these.
I did mention that to you to clear up.
Yep. I will clear these up right now.
No, you're doing that now.
Am I getting rid of this one too?
You do whatever. Do it. No, don't do that.
All right, don't do that. I'll do these. Boop.
All right. So our decade of RPGs to play.
Yes. The no longer definitive.
Definitive? I'm so confused. Should we do the honorable mentions first?
Yeah, let's do the honorable mentions. Get those out of the way. All right. So this is our top.
Essentially, it's 20. A top 30.
Yeah. We're going to mention our honorable mentions, but these are honorable mentions to our top 20 games, RPGs of the decade. So this goes for all platforms, just RPGs. Mm-hmm. We looked at a huge list of games. We spent a lot of time just knocking things out, making sure we didn't forget about things.
I still have scratches from you, too.
Yeah. And we definitely screamed at each other for a good while, just trying to rank these against one another. But first we'll go with the honorable mentions. We'll start from these aren't sorted, so
right. These I'm just gonna blast through these. Yeah. Okay. We have Undertale, Darkest Dungeon, Pillars of Eternity, Bravely Default, Persona 5, South Park, Stick of Truth, Xenoblade Chronicles X. Yes, we both are in agreement with that one. Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yes.
I remember when Fire Emblem Three Houses was coming out, and I polled a lot of people. I said, "Hey, listen, Fire Emblem's coming out, Three Houses. What's a Fire Emblem game I should play?" And it
would be Awakening.
And it was Awakening. It was
one,
always Awakening.
That's definitely the next best Fire Emblem game, but Three Houses is just so much better than Awakening.
Mm-hmm. Then we have Nier Automata, Horizon Zero Dawn, Neo, Dragon Quest XI, Disco Elysium, and Kingdom Hearts 3.
All right. That's our honorable mentions. So,
and there are must plays on that list.
Yeah, there's pretty much almost everything on that honorable mention list are must plays. It just depends on your cup of tea. For me, like Neo is something that I put on that list. I love that, but like there's very clear problems with Neo. Horizon Zero Dawn also has its own fair share of problems, but still a pretty fantastic game. There's like some great games on there, but it couldn't make our top 20. If it did, then we would have like a top 30.
Well, we essentially have a top 35 here.
Yeah,
with all these games. But we're actually going to start with number 20.
Number 20.
Number 20 is The Outer Wilds.
The Outer Wilds.
The Outer Wilds is a game I don't think you've played, but I've played. It gives me that Fallout New Vegas experience, but in a kind of a different world, different environment. It's not a post-apocalyptic environment, and I think the environment that they have here is better than. I think it's better than Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, it's a future outer space.
Yeah. Yep, it's got that the corporate people are basically taking over, kind of like your cyberpunk-ish kind of theme, I guess you could call it. But I absolutely love what they did here. The story and the voice acting is excellent. The gameplay is different than what Obsidian's done with their Fallout franchise, but refreshing. I like it. The Outer Wilds. The
Outer Wilds. And number 20. So going on to number 19 now. Some of these games might seem a little off, like our number 19, which is what I put in here for Tales of Grace's F. And I love the Tales franchise so much, so I had to sneak in something. And yes, there was other games that came out since then, like Xillia and Berseria and Zestiria, but you know what? They all suck in comparison to Tales of Grace's F. That game is absolutely fantastic. It simplifies the story, and it becomes just a story of childhood friends growing up. You start off when they're all like, 8 years old or 10 years old or something like that. They're all just kids hanging out, and it goes through that for a fairly long chunk. It's about 5 hours, maybe up to 8 hours long, that little intro piece. And then, it fast forwards X number of years later, and everyone's grown up, and you learn that bond that they form as friends continues, and the whole storyline is basically trying to you see your friend just becoming corrupt, and you're trying to save your friend, and that's the story in a nutshell. And it's just very beautiful how it tells that, in addition to being the best combat system in any of the Tales games to that point. Way better. Berseria, terrible. Not terrible, but Xillia was definitely a very bad combat system. Xillia 2 especially so. Zestiria was forgettable, but I don't know why they deviated from the Tales of Grace's F combat system, but that combat system is fantastic. It was very different from the other Tales games and how they refined it. They got rid of the mana system altogether. Berseria kind of borrowed some elements of it, but forgot some of the core parts that made it really great. And you combine that with 4 players, local co-op, all at the same time on this fantastic combat system in this game that's all about saving and being friends with one another and saving your friend. It's just like the perfect RPG for multiplayer.
And
that's why it's on the list.
That's why it's on the list.
That's why
and that's a PlayStation 3.
PlayStation 3, yep.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I had not heard of this game.
Yeah, number 18, Age of Wonders 3. I just started getting into this game, and I dived in hard,
Really
very,
hard.
very hard. It is so good. You may look at this game, you may look at screenshots, you may look at video and be like, this isn't an RPG. It's like a war game, or it looks like it's Civilization, and it's those things as well. But you know what? Fire Emblem is a war game, and there are other games out there that have Civ building mechanics, but this is definitely, all you have to do is fire up the campaign and start playing, and you'll realize, yep, this is an RPG. You are playing from a particular character in the story's perspective, and you get to try out different races. This takes place in a very Dungeons and Dragons like fantasy world. You're leveling up your heroes. You have an inventory. You are making, at moments, very important decision points in the story.
Game-changing, right?
Game-changing decisions. You're interacting with NPCs. You're deciding between how, when you're taking over different settlements, you can make pretty important decisions as to how you take over those settlements. There's an alignment system in this game, so you could go good, you could go evil, and that has its own little take, its own little flavor on things within this game. So it is wild, and the amount of content that they packed into this game and how deep the game is, and the combat system is fantastic. It is kind of like Fire Emblem, but instead of tiles, it's hexes, and instead of having well, actually, Fire Emblem has a decent number of units, but your army is only about 10-ish in size. Whereas this one, you're controlling your units, and you could have up to, well, you could have, depending on how you initiate battle, you could have up to like 42 units that are engaging in this big giant warfare. It's pretty fantastical. So yeah, Age of Wonders 3.
It sounds like this hit you hard.
It hit me hard. It's
hit you
really
hard.
good. It is a phenomenal game, and the team that made it is small.
Really tiny.
I was shocked. This is a passion project. This game, it oozes with passion. And if I haven't told you yet, it has a goblin character creator. You can create your own goblin. There's other races too, but those don't matter.
Those
goblins.
don't matter.
Goblins.
Yeah, you don't see playable goblins much.
Goblins.
Next game on the list is one that I wish and I hope, is still hope, that would come onto the Switch, and that's Divinity Original Sin 1.
Yeah.
Divinity Original Sin 1 Enhanced Edition is a really good, really great game, tells a great story, but the second one really improves upon everything. But Divinity Original Sin 1, fantastic combat. It's got a good story. A good story, I would say.
The story is, I would say it's the best that they could do for something that was a kickstarted game, and they kind of didn't take things as seriously as Divinity Original Sin 2 does.
Right.
But it still gets the job done. No questions about that.
Right. The gameplay is, if you've played Divinity Original Sin 2, is very similar.
Yep.
But yeah, it definitely, and this is, I want to say this is PC only. I don't think that's made it to consoles.
It's on console.
It is on console?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You say it's on console.
I think Xbox and PlayStation.
Okay.
For the enhanced
edition. Yeah, that would be the only version I think you can get right now.
But it's definitely best played on PC, especially with the sequel.
Yeah, I would say at this point, I didn't know that it was on Xbox, but I think with the sequel, they really did a great job in modifying, I guess, the gameplay to play with a controller. Yeah. They did a fantastic job with that. So yeah, next game we have number 16.
Yep, Pyre.
I have not played Pyre.
Pyre is made by Supergiant Games.
I've played their other games.
I played their other games too.
I've not played this one.
This one is their best one.
Their best one.
Their best one by landslide.
Even after Bastion gets praised.
Bastion, I depraise Bastion. Bastion's good, but it's not great. Bastion is a bit simplistic and doesn't really. It's a little bit too long in the tooth and doesn't do the things that it could do to the best that they could be. But the way it presents itself and the artwork to that game is great, but the combat's it's mediocre. There's a lot of mediocre things in Bastion, and the way the world's laid out is not interesting at all. Pyre, on the other hand, is sort of taking the bloat and eliminating anything that's completely unnecessary. You have the world that you're exploring is basically just this one big giant world map that you're exploring in a zone-based environment, and you're just sort of clicking through. You're not really interacting too much with it, and it keeps things very simple. It keeps all the extra fluff of things very, very simple. But what it goes super heavy, is the storytelling, the lore, and the world building through pretty much text. Like,
it doesn't have a narrator like Bastion or Transistor does.
No, there's definitely voice acting.
But like a narrator with Bastion and Transistor, this kind of like a person telling a story.
There's a couple of things that are definitely squawking at you pretty heavily. I don't want to say too much about who is squawking at you and why they're squawking. It's all very important stuff. And you'll realize after you play, I think the first or second loop through the game, but it is something to experience. The world is unlike any you've ever experienced before, and then the core battle mechanic of the game is you're playing weird fantasy basketball. This is like the best I can describe it. You're passing a ball around in order to dunk it into the enemy's basket, but while the process of doing that is it's very hard to explain. This is a very different, very precious game. It is beautiful. The artwork is fantastic. The music is phenomenal, and the storyline and the decisions you make. And you make these decisions over and over again, and they are so important. It's a game that's purely focused on making your decisions matter, every single one of them, as you go through, both on how the story unfolds, on how you're able to progress, and all sorts of things. It is phenomenal. I would rate this even higher on the list, but this is a accumulated effort, and I'm happy where it is right now, because every game on this list.
And you know what? I hadn't heard of this game before. I heard of the other games that this dev has made, but I hadn't heard of this one. This one actually came out. I was just looking it up, 2017. Yep. And the reason why I haven't heard of it is because it's on the PlayStation only, and
PC.
Oh, right. But the only console it's on is PlayStation 4.
And I played on PC.
So had this game come to the Switch, like it should.
It should. I would love for this game to be on Switch.
Unless, like you had mentioned at some point, unless there's some exclusivity that we're just not aware of. But yeah, I would love for this to play this.
It is a fantastic game, and if it didn't come out in 2017, it probably wouldn't have been so forgotten. I watched the Game Awards, and this game only got nominated for, I think, like one category, and I felt like it got robbed, because this was, it came out the same year as Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade 2,
right?
Like three major heavy hitters. So I'm not surprised it got buried, but I'm pretty disappointed that it came out that year.
We got it out.
All right, next on the list, a big game for both of us.
Oh, yeah.
This is, I think, the first game on our top 20 that we've both played.
Right, is it? Yeah. Path of Exile. I always praise this game. I absolutely love this game. It's a freaking free-to-play game. Yeah. And it does not feel like a free-to-play game. I have put a lot of time into this game. In fact... we discussed this behind the scenes here, how it is so much better than Diablo 3. Without a doubt, it is better. It does everything better. Whether it's a better RPG, whether it's the skill system. I adore the skill system. I adore the grid of death, the daunting grid. The spheres there,
the passive skill tree.
Passive skill tree.
Yep.
I absolutely love that. I will, and I will get that framed and put it on my wall. It is a work of art. And
the unique currency system that's in the game. Some things are in there for the sake of making it grindy, but if you ever wanted a good generally definitive sequel to Diablo 2, this is the game, Path of Exile, not Diablo 3. Path of Exile by a landslide. I mean,
well, it essentially has some of the developers that worked on Diablo 2, and they moved into the free-to-play area space.
They did a phenomenal job. They didn't. The artwork isn't great, but it matches the tone that you would want. It's a darker tone. It does have some comedy elements, but there's gore and there's like weird, dark, sadistic humor in places. Blood and gore galore, but not in a cartoonish way. It's a fantastic game. Character customization to the nth degree. I don't think it gets any deeper than Path of Exile.
Right. It's essentially the action RPG. The loot is awesome. It's what you want.
Yep.
And bring it to the Switch. Grinding gear games. If anyone knows them, please tell them the Switch needs the Path of Exile.
I think they're aware. I think pretty much every developer is aware that the Switch exists.
Right. And,
when Witcher 3 is on the Switch, I think at that point, everyone knows.
Everyone's paying attention.
Yeah, everyone's paying attennumber
Next,
another game we both played?
Yeah. I think from here on out, well, maybe not.
Almost.
Number 14, Fallout New Vegas. Fallout 3 didn't make the cut. I think that was a 09. Was that an 09 game? I don't know. Fallout 4 is not even on our list.
No.
Mostly because it's not a great Fallout experience. Fallout New Vegas, the second Obsidian game on our list, is a fantastic first-person RPG. The environment is not as good as Fallout 3. I love the DC environment. I think we are in agreement with that. The DC environment is really, really cool. It's
the theme of it.
Yeah.
Like I don't really care too much for like the Vegas, the Strip, gambling and that stuff.
Right.
But the world itself was way more interesting. It felt more
with the factions.
It felt more lived in. It felt like these people have existed within here for a while, and I am walking into their world instead of walking into a world that's made for me to play around in, like Fallout 3.
Right. So yeah, Fallout New Vegas, number 14. I think it's definitely it's one of our recommendations to play, not on the Switch.
Yep.
Mass Effect 2.
Mass Effect 2.
13.
Yep.
No, you said this was... Oh, well, you didn't say it wasn't an RPG.
Yeah.
You said of the Mass Effects, number 2, 3, and Andromeda were kind of the least...
I never played Andromeda.
Okay.
And that one is just so terrible.
Don't play Andromeda.
Don't play Andromeda. that one's terrible. But 3 is also terrible. 1, no questions asked. Mass Effect 1 is an RPG through and through. 2 definitely switches to being way more action focused. I still consider an RPG.
It is most definitely an RPG.
But it is on the more actiony side of things. But when it comes to like dialogue, making choices, having some of those choices that you made in the prior game sort of take hold in the second game, very interesting stuff. I would say it's not as interesting of a grand story as the first one. And 2 is more of a setup for what happens in Mass Effect 3, but Mass Effect 3 kind of fails to sort of satisfy that conclusion. But they're phenomenal series
altogether, right.
In its entirety, just not
Andromeda.
Not Andromeda, just 1, 2, and 3, absolutely phenomenal. And 2 is... because it felt better gameplay wise, because it was more actiony, it didn't feel as clunky as Mass Effect 1. I do kind of like 2 better than 1, except for the story.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the reason why I like 2 better than 1 is because they actually took space exploration, I guess, serious, where you actually visited the actual planets rather than on a rover. Like
the Mako.
Oh, whatever that thing, whatever it was.
That was terrible.
So basically, you were just mining like minerals or whatever on other planets, where instead of visiting them.
Well, 2 didn't do it in that much of a interesting mechanic. I mean, you probed the planets, and you pointed over the planet. You moved. I think you were like rotating
it, look for a certain spot where
you're scanning it,
right,
and then you suck out resources. Ugh.
I mean, what would be better? Actually,
not
roving around the planet and looking for stuff.
Don't do it.
Just don't do it.
Just don't do it.
Well, they got rid of that, and I couldn't stand that in Mass Effect 1.
Well, they didn't replace it with anything better, just less bad.
And why couldn't they have just done it where you actually go and visit the planet, like in No Man's Sky? You know, but with actual enemies, kind of just, you know, procedurally generate a planet.
Yeah, sure, just like that. Why couldn't have they? Yeah, why didn't you do that?
Why didn't they do that?
Yeah, just
why not?
do it. It's easy, right?
Look who it is. Look, you have it's BioWare.
They messed up Andromeda.
Oh man,
Mass Effect has always been about a very scripted, very directed RPG experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, initially. Yes.
Initially. So if they go anywhere near procedural, you can throw that out the window.
Well, at least just the actual exploration of moons or planets, just that aspect of it.
Yeah, then it becomes then they spend all their time and
effort. This is us making a game right now.
Yeah. They do all that time and effort making
coding for that.
They realize they have playtesters play it and realize that it's not as interesting, and eventually playtesters like, I'm going to skip this because it's unnecessary and I don't think it's worth my time. So they skip it, and then the developers are like, oh, we're not going to make you skip it because we're going to make you want to go through these areas because we put all this time and effort into it. So we're going to put incentives for you to go there. And now the player's like, oh, I have to do this thing because it gives me this particular resource that helps me with these things. So
all right,
now I have to do this, but now it becomes busy work.
Mass Effect 2 Enhanced Edition canceled. We canceled the game.
All right, that was number 13.
That was number 13. Mass Effect 2 Enhanced Edition. It's officially canceled by the Switchrpg podcast. Yeah. But Mass Effect 2, good game.
Great game.
Number 12.
Yeah.
I'll let you...
Dark Souls 3.
Dark Souls 3.
We both played this. We both absolutely love this game.
Yes.
I think at this point forward, like Mass Effect 2, I could argue as being perhaps a little bit slower. Even New Vegas, I would put lower in certain things. But like Dark Souls 3, everything from this point up is so hard to sort of organize.
I agree.
Yeah, this is a very difficult thing. And Dark Souls 3 is phenomenal. The best combat has ever been in a Dark Souls franchise.
Of the 3 Dark Souls.
And Demon Souls, this is like, I wouldn't compare it to Sekiro or Bloodborne because those are very different combat systems. But when it comes to the Souls in the Souls genre or Souls games, Dark Souls 3, definitely the best iteration of it. It gives you the most character customization, flexibility options, and the level design it's like a nice happy in between of being somewhat linear levels that Dark Souls 2 had to being fully sort of big, elaborate, winding into itself levels from a bigger, grandiose world that Dark Souls 1 was. So it's sort of like this hybrid of in between of the two, and it's fantastic, and some of the levels are beautiful.
That's what I really like about this game. I love the characters in the game. The enemies, the bosses are awesome. Which one is it? The dancer? Oh man.
Oh yeah. The one, it had like the see-through.
Yeah, the wispy.
Oh
man.
Dance around, and then all of a sudden, like the entire room catches on fire, and it starts dancing, and it catches on fire.
I actually got into that combat too early.
Yep.
Because that's the way Dark Souls works, right? I got in there way too early and got annihilated, but I was just in awe. I'm like, holy cow, she is like freaking cool.
Yeah.
And then you had the twins. The twins were awesome.
The twins.
Yeah. The
Oh, yeah. You're going way to the deep end.
What?
Forgot about that. Yeah.
I just said twins, and yeah,
are they twins? I thought they were just brothers.
I think they're boy and girl twins.
No.
I might be wrong. I guess I don't know. I thought they were
the one that's riding on the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are brothers.
Are they brothers?
One's the
Maybe
big
I'm
brother and little
misremembering
brother.
that.
I think the big brother is the one that's like frail and
Yep.
and clinging on to
On the back.
on the back.
Yeah, I think like I
That
said,
was such a beautiful fight too. 'cause-
I know,
'cause
that's
you're
what I mean.
You're just fighting the physically bigger brother. You take that one down. The brother that's the prince or the king or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for spoilers, but the game's been out for quite a while.
but that's why I just said twins. Oh man, I love the enemy art styles. Like they're just the characters are all unique. The bosses are awesome. And that's why me personally, Dark Souls 3 is my favorite of them all. But it was actually the first one I played. I played them in reverse order. I went from 3 to then to 1.
Yeah.
And I think in doing that almost ruined my experience because I didn't get to see that progression as time went on. And I appreciated what Dark Souls 3 did in terms of refining combat, refining everything. They refined a lot of things, I think. But
I played them 1, 2, I think
Demon Souls. Yeah.
Bloodborne, then 3.
Okay. Yeah, I just went from 3 to the 1. I never got to play Demon Souls or Bloodborne. But Dark Souls 3 was probably my favorite.
And like the Souls games are so good that I played and beat all the DLC except for 2, Dark Souls 2, which I do want to get around to, but like even the DLC is fantastic, especially Dark Souls 3. That DLC, it's not the best of them. I think the Bloodborne DLC is by far and away the best DLC I've ever played. But yeah, phenomenal stuff.
And you were right. They're the twin princes. They're two guys. I thought it was a male and female, two
But
males.
you're right that they are twins.
They are twins.
I didn't think they were twins because they're physically very different.
They are different. But man, that was such a memorable battle, along with the dancer.
Yeah.
Was another memorable battle. I so recommend Dark Souls 3.
So what could top Dark Souls 3? What would be number 11? What could top something that good?
Probably a game I haven't played.
Yeah, probably a game I haven't played. Monster Hunter World. This is on. If it wasn't for the multiplayer, fantastic. Now, first off, the Monster Hunter combat system, it's very weighty, like Dark Souls. It's very nuanced. You have to let the animations play out. It's very animation specific.
You learn their skill set and their move animations. Right.
So it's all about learning these things and not being a complete hack and slash that most other action oriented RPG games have. So it is. It's got sort of a similar feel to what the Dark Souls combat system has, except every single fight you're doing is a boss battle.
It's a boss rush game
against one big giant creature, and sometimes some other big giant boss will join in on the fight, and now you have to fight two bosses at the same time.
It's got Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in it a little bit. So you're fighting this small monster, and all of a sudden this level 80 guy comes in.
But you are prepared as a proper hunter. You will have the correct items. You'll have the poo bombs that you can throw, the stink bombs that you can throw onto the newcomer, the one that you're not supposed to be hunting quite yet. You throw some poo on their nose, and they'll smell it, and you're like,
get away.
It smells terrible over here, and it just runs away. And then you can continue your fight with the one, if you're still alive, the remaining one. It's fantastic. It's rated so high because when you're playing that game multiplayer, whether it be two or more players, there is no other multiplayer experience, co-op RPG experience that's better than Monster Hunter World. Mm-hmm. Absolutely nothing. I don't think there's any other. There is one other one, but it's a turn-based combat system that is multiplayer, that is a little bit higher up on this list than Monster Hunter World. But when it comes to action-oriented co-op RPG, like, you can't beat Monster Hunter World the best. And the loot grind system and everything, the gameplay loop around it, absolutely fantastic. Customize your character, get the cool gear, look like you're wearing lizard skin all over the place or whatever creature you just hunted.
My character would be
Fantastic.
so mismatched. It would be disgusting.
Well, that's what happens when you want to min max.
All right.
You'll figure out like, oh, I need a 3-socket gem piece of headgear for over here. I need to get these skills that are on those pants over there. It doesn't look good. Oh,
But whatever.
problems.
I'm the best.
You're the best because I have a big giant cannon lance.
That's awesome. Again, I haven't played that game, and I would absolutely love to play that game. It sounds like something I would really, really like. It's just it's not on. Well, it's on the Xbox, so
It's
I
on
guess
Xbox.
I guess I could get it there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I will get that.
All right. So now we have busted through
Top 10.
the top 10
We're going to top 10. A game we've never talked about.
ever.
In fact, I think it's been about an hour since we talked about it.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem Three Houses.
What a world we live in where a Fire Emblem game has finally made it onto the top 10 of anything.
Top 10 of the decade.
Yeah.
I mean, we did mention Fire Emblem Awakening.
Honorable mention.
Yep. But Fire Emblem Three Houses takes it to a totally different level where it almost feels like a different game. Right?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it still
very
has
totally
that tactical feel, but the story, it just takes it to another place.
They elaborate so deeply onto the story. I mean, we've talked about the story a bit, but like the party members, the people that make up your group, your army, the students that you recruit, each of them have a very long, very deep story, and it depends. You'll learn more about them depending on the relationships that they develop with other characters, and sometimes you won't even know if you're going to find out something new. There will be characters that you think that you peg as being one-dimensional or barely two-dimensional, very boring characters or very uninteresting or sometimes offensive, like Lawrence. Like a lot of people do not like Lawrence, but if you stick with them and he has a very awesome arc, a character development arc that happens as he interacts with all these other party members, and it's not so much as people are pointing out his issues, which they do, and he just wants to better himself, and he's starting to realize that there's more nuance to things, and his fantasy is what the Veal sword gets pulled away from his fantasy of being being of noble birth, and he sort of realizes the realistic nature of things and why it's not. That particular facade is not worth sort of holding up. He becomes a very interesting character that you can actually relate to, even though he's like so pompous.
I'd have to go back on my playthrough and see, but I think in my playthrough he died, and I let him die. He's gone. Cool. Yeah. Let's move on.
Every single character is worth saving, sticking through, and having them develop the relationship with other characters. I think almost all the characters that I got, and I got almost all of them except for like 3 or 4 throughout all 3 houses.
You're terrible. That's why.
Yeah. And I think I got A or A+ relationship with all of them,
everyone.
with each other. So I got to see a lot of the interactions that happen. You actually find out things from like Sedith and Flane that are actually pretty critically important to the storyline, but you need to like develop the relationship with them to actually learn that. So there's like key elements of the storyline, like backstory stuff that's actually super important to the grand scheme of the story overall, that's tied into these characters. So you really want to care for each of these characters. Phenomenal game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can't disagree with any of these up here now. Yeah. Next on the list, I feel like I had to fight with you on this one a little bit. I don't know why.
Well, this list, I mean, do you see the list?
Well, you wanted to put it lower.
I'm actually happy where it is.
Okay. Elder Scrolls Skyrim.
Yeah. Legendary.
I think this is most of these are actually, all of them are must plays. This is definitely one. It's on everything. You can play it on everything. This is definitely what I want to say put Bethesda on the map, but that was really Elder Scrolls Morrowind.
Yeah.
But I think this took them to another level where now,
This put them on the mainstream.
yeah, and
Even
that's to a
Oblivion
detriment, though.
Yeah,
I
even
think.
Oblivion couldn't do it.
Right. And I think that was to its detriment, though, with Skyrim. It brought them to a different level where they thought they could just really put anything out and it would be fine. And it doesn't work that way. But I love the story in this game. Did you have an issue with it being Dragonborn and kind of finding that out?
No, the story, if it's not my shtick, but I definitely got into it. I got heavy into the world. I went full, very deep into the mage college.
Yeah, and that's the
Love
thing with
that.
this. There are different classes. You can go Thieves Guild, you can go Mage, you can go. There was another one. Just the I can't remember.
Couldn't you go werewolf?
You can go Lycanthropy. This is a really open world, open anything game. Yes, there are kind of plot points you need to hit, but still you can go any way with this game.
And the main story is actually fairly short, and the fact that this is a thing with these style of Bethesda games is that the enemies scale with your level, so you could beat this game in the first 5 hours, pretty easily. If you just beeline through the main story path, you can actually beat this game without much of an issue fairly quickly. But being that this is a Elder Scrolls
you're missing
game,
out on everything.
it never happens because you just point in a direction, you start walking, and all of a sudden, you stumble. You're always stumbling onto something interesting, and whether it be a tomb or a dragon that will come out of nowhere,
Yep,
or big giant
trolls.
Yeah.
Giant. They're giants. Yeah, the mammoths that along with them in their encampments. There's always something. Absolutely, I love this game.
Yeah. It's a fantastic experience.
And it's playable on everything.
Yeah. And what was it,
Toasters.
Switch launch? Was it launch?
I don't know if it was launched on the Switch, but it's on the Switch.
No, it wasn't. It was that year, though. That same year. That 2017 year, that fantastic year. Yeah, incredible game. Number 9. So, moving on to number 8.
I'm going to back away from the mic here.
All right. I might need to do a little convincing here.
Mike.
There's no question on the quality of this game.
No, absolutely zero doubt on the quality of this game. This is a phenomenal game. I don't doubt that at all. And it's not the typical argument for a different title. This is a brand new title we've never talked about on the podcast. Ever.
This is...
As you were.
God of War, the PlayStation 4 game, the complete reimagining of the franchise. This plays nothing like the previous God of War games, which I would not call an RPG whatsoever. However, this one is very much an RPG.
Okay.
This is an adventure you are going on. You are interacting with various NPCs, taking on quests. You are crafting, you are leveling up, you are getting new gear. Enemies drop loot, they drop crafting materials, they drop recipes. You are exploring different parts of the world. There are optional places that you can go and explore. There are puzzles, combat galore, fantastic immersive story told world. Just this, I can't stress how amazing the world of this game is. This is probably one of my favorite game worlds ever. It is absolutely ridiculous, some of the stuff that they pulled off in this game, and then just also how they directed the game. That sort of behind the shoulder, single shot type of mechanic that they did. Absolutely phenomenal. The game plays super well. It's not the best combat playing God of War game. The combat, as you get used to it, it does play really, really well. It controls like Resident Evil 4, which is weird, but when you start
especially for a modern
action
game.
What is an action game, this is like the slowest God of War game that you've ever played. Action wise, it's very weighty. You are taking your time instead of having the big spinny fire chains of Olympus. Is that what they're
Which is awesome.
Yeah, instead of having that, You
It
have
is a
the
changeable weapon.
Leviathan's axe, which is like this big giant axe. It's much slower to swing, but you can throw it like a boomerang and it comes back at you, and you can like chop off enemies' heads and stuff like that. And you know, you can heal yourself, and you got like little mini spells. You're using like rune powers and stuff like that.
So this is the discussion we had.
You can summon
discussion
little
we had
animals to help you spare
was a
animals.
little bit of this. It was about a half hour longer before the recording of this, and there were tears. I did wipe away some tears, but ultimately he convinced me. It is on our list, and there's no doubt, like you had said, it is a beautiful game. You skipped over it when you were convincing me, and I don't think you mentioned it just now, but the narrative on this, you said it was simple. I'm going to disagree and say, yeah, the plot is simple, but I think the story to get there is actually really, really.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's dramatic.
What I want to say is the premise. The premise is simple.
Okay. Yes.
The premise is very simple. Like it's just you, Kratos, and your son, your boy. Your wife and the boy's mother died, and you burned her, and you're taking her ashes, and you're gonna sprinkle it on the top of a very specific mountain that your wife requested, I guess, on her deathbed or whatever, and that's it. You go on this journey to do this, and that's it. That's the whole point of the entire game, but stuff happens, and you learn about the world and everything. And like Kratos, he's a fish out of water. He's from Sparta. So they do tie in some elements from the previous God of War games. You do not need to play them whatsoever.
Okay.
All you need to know is that Kratos used to be a god from some other foreign land, and he's in Norse land now, and you know he has to deal with Odin and Zeus and all these other mythical things. Which it's not about that. It's about you and your son.
Yeah.
And there's other stuff, but it's mostly about that and learning about this brand new world. It is beautiful. I can't praise this game enough. It is not my shtick. It's not even in my top games, top 5 games of all time. But I recognize this as being one of the best games of all time because it is that good.
And it's not a knock on the game, but the game is extremely affordable right now. I think it's like under $20. It might even be $15. If and when I get a PS4, this will be a game I get because I know I will like it.
And it is a juggernaut of a game. The main experience is huge. I think it takes about 50 hours, right around that, in order to beat just the main game, and probably another like 20 plus hours to do all the side quests and optional stuff, maybe even longer than that. Yeah. Excellent game. Number 7.
We talked about launch titles. This is a Switch.
Well, launch year.
Launch year. Launch year. Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yeah.
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is this is definitely a must play, but I do feel it's almost niche a little bit where if you aren't into anime inspired RPGs, that sort of tropier type of stuff,
it might be a little bit of a pill to swallow.
Yeah, you might not get into it, but you're really doing yourself a disservice because the story is freaking good. The story is good. The combat feels, you and I mentioned this before, is like once you get that combat down, it feels like you're playing a rhythm game. And it really does when you have those elemental bursts that you can do, and you're launching and you're toppling, or smashing and toppling, whatever order it is. It's been a little bit
topple then smash.
Whatever he just said.
Topple then launch then smash.
Topple, launch, smash.
When you break. Topple, launch, smash.
When you break, topple, launch, smash. Yeah. Okay, thank you. When you get all that down, it feels like a rhythm game.
The driver combos.
And it just flows like out of my fingers. Like I'm just doing it.
Yep.
And it was so cool, so cool. The different worlds are all unique, and they're all they all have their own unique music to them, and the music in it is wonderful. It's so well done. I will say there are maybe a character or two that are extremely obnoxious.
Yep.
One of which being Poppy. I I just that's just a me thing.
Oh, how dare you!
Poppy and
Poppy's fantastic.
And who is the nut looking guy?
Zeke.
Not Zeke. No, Zeke's cool, man. Zeke
nut looking guy.
No, it's the round dude there.
Oh,
Because of the T, I think.
yeah.
Oh shoot! I can't believe I can't remember it. But him.
Yes.
Who made Poppy?
He's fine too. I like him too.
All right, so that was my biggest hurdle. Were them two. Not so much Poppy, but more him.
I'd
Now I
say
can't
the
remember.
one I have the biggest issue with, voice acting wise, is Pyra.
Well, Pyra was two different. It was Mithra and Pyra, the same voice actress who did them.
Yeah.
But obviously, I didn't mind Pyra at all.
I thought it was very unemotional, the voice acting for Pyra.
I almost felt like that was done on purpose.
Yeah, I can see that. Like something was intentionally missing, but that would be fine if there was a payoff for it, especially if you understand the story. If you were to see like the character gain more emotion in their voice at certain key elements
Right.
of the story, but that didn't happen. But Pyra as a character is great. It's just the voice acting could have been a little bit better for that. But there was also other voice acting in other places that were like meh. A lot of mess. Meh.
And there was also the
Meh. Meh, meh, meh.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. That was so annoying. I was just about to say that some of the battle cries, wow, what was that?
You think you could take me?
Yeah, that they actually had to fix that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I've never seen that before, where they had to put in a patch to remove some of the obnoxious battle cries, and that was one of them. But I mean, we're nitpicking, really. This game is it's a masterpiece, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's imaginative, and as you said, the music top notch, the graphics top notch, the worlds top notch, the story top notch, the characters and how they develop a relationship with one another, mainly with the main characters of Rex and Pyra, like top notch stuff. It's just phenomenal.
And the character I was thinking of is Tora.
And this is one of the few. I just want to quickly mention, this is one of the few games I cried to twice.
Yeah.
Like at two moments fairly close to one another in this game, I cried. Like that doesn't happen. I do not cry to games.
It's an emotional game. And one thing we also didn't mention, it's got a DLC, which is essentially a game on its own.
Yep. Not as good.
Not as good, but I mean, it's
Torn of the Golden Country.
It's still in the same realm.
Yeah. The combat system's definitely better in Torn of the Golden Country. The game runs and looks better. They enhance the engine. It actually physically looks better and runs smoother and all that. But just, the story isn't as big, immersive. The world, you're only getting one new world and a variation of another world on the DLC. So don't expect as much of a fantastic streamlined experience. Also, the pacing on Xenoblade 2 is phenomenal.
It's done well. It's smooth.
Mostly like RPGs. Like this is an issue with Dragon Quest 11, which we had an honorable mention to. The pacing is just bad in that game. It's just too slow. Whereas Xenoblade 2, the first hour you're having a good time. You're having a really good time.
And and they bring in so many different mechanics into that game, and they sprinkle it in. You're just continuing.
Very nicely paced.
Yeah, you're just continuing to learn. Yeah. And yeah, it's a very well done game. Absolutely adore that game.
All right.
Number six.
Number six. And I had to fight a little bit to get this one up this high.
You did.
This is Dark Souls 1. And
Would you say Dark Souls 1 remastered? Is that kind of what we're talking about here?
Well, even the first one came out this decade.
No, I know, but I mean the remastered, they did have some improvements on the game other than just remastering, right?
Yeah,
I think
nothing significant enough to make that changes up the core gameplay of Dark Souls 1. The game is absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. This is the game that started it all. Yeah, Demon Souls came out first, but you know what? This game did the better level design, this one big world that you can fully explore. You just have to make sure you have the right keys. You're gated, whether it be, level checks, level checks more like a skill check,
right?
Or having certain keys that you can actually skip through. You can sequence break the hell out of this game. I actually did that. My first time playing through this game, I accidentally sequence broke the whole thing, and I went to areas I was not supposed to go to.
And then you would have stuck there and had to restart, I bet, right?
No, I just trucked along and kept at it, and it was phenomenal. The game beat me to all. I just
and I love that about Souls games. I love the fact that they are difficult. Yeah, they're difficult. But once you get past that key enemy or that enemy that's always, there's a sense of accomplishment there that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's just like this one little enemy rather than like a whole level in another game. It's just this one small enemy. You beat them, you figure it out, and you're like, that was freaking awesome. And you're on to the next one, and you get that sense of accomplishment again. I just love that feeling about Souls games.
It's and all of the difficulty that comes with the Dark Souls games, and this one in particular, it's fair, right? Mm-hmm. It's not unfair difficulty. It's not like, oh, yes, there are traps, but it's not like it's not like, oops, you're the random generation of some trap or of some like particular shot or whatever that's what's causing you to die. No, it's because you messed up, you didn't block when you should have blocked, you rolled, or you try to wind up a new attack when you really should have just held up your shield, something like that.
I would say there's with this one there's no randomness here. They have their hitboxes almost down to a science in this, whether you're dodging with those iframes, those invincibility frames, or you're parrying. They have their Dark Souls is so combat focused. It's unbelievable. Out of all the games here, maybe with the exception with the next game here, the combat is it's with the Souls games. They have it down to a science.
Yep. All right.
Speaking of which, the next game, I really want to play this. Bloodborne. Bloodborne, it's another PlayStation exclusive.
Slightest edge, just the slightest little edge over Dark Souls.
And the reason is why. I mean, you're the one, because you're the one who essentially swapped those.
Yeah. It's hard. It's always hard for me to figure out which one I like more, but I think it comes down to just the world and the combat of Bloodborne and how much more aggressive both the world is, and Bloodborne is by far the hardest of all the Souls games. All of it. It's the hardest one, especially if you incorporate the DLC. It's phenomenally hard. Bloodborne it has the world to go along with it, which is this Lovecraftian gothic. Mm-hmm. Like, it is Lovecraft. Everything that you love about Lovecraft, whether it be the lycanthropy or the Great Ones, like all of that is in Bloodborne. It is the best interpretation of Lovecraft you will ever play in any video game ever. It's absolutely phenomenal. The combat system being so aggressive, that rally system that they have in there. So kind of like in fighting games where you can take a hit, but you'll have like a red bar where you can slowly regain the health. Well, that is in this game. So as long as you don't take another hit, you can attack the enemy back to regain the health that you lost from the prior attack. But the moment you take another hit, or if you wait too long, the health that we're gonna lose is actually lost. So it promotes this very aggressive behavior. Not only that, but they sped up the combat of Dark Souls dramatically. There is no block. Technically, you can block with a couple of different items that do trivial blocking. You dodge in this game. This game is all about dodging
and just the rolling.
And well, there's no rolling. It's just dodging.
Oh, just like a swift dodge.
It's a very swift dodge. It's one of the best feeling combat dodges you can do in any game. And the dodges become you have to master the dodging, because where you dodge becomes so critically important into succeeding in this game. So every single dodge you're doing, you're thinking about ahead of time. What direction are you going to dodge into? based on the attack that the enemy is about to do, or that you see the animation for, and you notice that, oh, this attack is coming in from the top right, slashing diagonally, so I want to dodge into and underneath that particular attack so I can get into a position where I can start attacking the enemy.
So placement is very important.
Yeah, dodge where you place yourself afterwards. The spacing of that very fast combat is just phenomenal. And then they brought back the interconnected world, that Metroid-like open world that existed in the original Dark Souls and went away in Dark Souls 2 and was a little bit there in Dark Souls 3. They brought it back in its entirety for Bloodborne. It is one big, giant, interconnected world. There are some weird little teleported, offshoot worlds, but there's one bigger connected world that you can open up shortcuts to and loop back within itself and sort of go in from one area to one zone, and like, oh, if I want to get to this other place, I can just go through that shortcut there, down this hole over there, and up those stairs there, and boom, you're there.
So Bloodborne sounds like it's everything I love about Dark Souls.
Yep.
The environment, I love that Lovecraftian gothic feel. Absolutely love that. I gotta get it.
Yeah.
I gotta get this.
It's a little bit simpler on some of the character building RPG like mechanics of like tuning your stats. You only have 4 stats to play around with instead of like the 8 or 9 that are in the Dark Souls franchise. But you have ways of customizing your character differently. You get these runes that you can socket yourself with. Your weapons, you're not getting as huge of a repertoire of weapons like you do in the Dark Souls games.
So you're plus one-ing weapons, or how?
You're sticking with one weapon and you are enhancing it, but then sockets open up on that weapon. And then you can socket your weapon with different blood gems, and those blood gems can add different effects to that. But the weapons you get, the trick weapons in particular, they are more interesting. They have a bigger move set because most of them can transform. And you want to use their transform versions in certain combat scenarios and not use their transform versions in other scenarios. There's also a parry system that's very important in the game, where you're using your gun. You have a gun. There's like a whole family of firearm weapons that you can get.
That's awesome.
A phenomenal game. And then also there's this hidden gameplay stat, which is basically they kind of borrowed from Eternal Darkness, which is also another Lovecraftian game. So there is like a insanity system in this game. The game's amazing.
Right. It's the Castlevania RPG we'll never get to play, or we will play if it's.
It's Bloodborne.
It's Bloodborne.
Yeah. There is actually a particular world within that's kind of a little separate, that is within Bloodborne, and when you get to the end, you're pretty much fighting a vampire.
That's awesome. Oh man, I will play this game, no doubt about it. It's just when. Very cool. So yeah, we're into the top 5.
That was number 5.
That was number 5.
Yeah.
4.
All right.
I have.
This would be my number 2. Just
say you're just putting that.
Just putting it out
there. You're putting me on the spot here.
No, look, I had to move this one down because Gio hasn't played this.
You're right. No, I haven't played this, and what little I've played of it, because I do have the 3DS version.
Yep.
It's been on a 3DS, so it really. I don't know if that's the ultimate experience. I have not played this on the Wii or the Wii U, so I will be playing this when it's out. Is it remastered or whatever it's doing?
Remakey.
Whatever it is. When it's out on the Switch.
Not a full remake, but definitely an HD remaster.
Yeah, I will without a doubt be playing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles.
The original.
The OG.
Yeah.
And you think this is better than the second one?
Yeah. Yeah, it's got the... All right, so take the things you don't like about the second one.
Okay.
The voice acting.
Right,
mainly, and some of the other stuff. Not a problem in this.
Not a problem.
This is one of the best voice acted games I've ever played. It's just phenomenal. The voice acting is great. I love the crazy British accents that everyone has, and and all the UK little sub variants of accents, the Cockney accent and Rhine, and just that the characters, the the sort of relationship system, the heart-to-heart stuff that they have in this game, how interconnected all the different gameplay mechanics are, and how they synergize with one another, and how these relationships, how you develop bonds with one another, not just with your own party members, but you're developing bonds with the people of various settlements, various cities, and you're developing their bond even further. It is an incredible game. The story is absolutely amazing, just as good as 2. In some cases, a little bit better. In some cases, probably not as good, but still phenomenal. It's just, the music is also incredible. I would say on par with Xenoblade 2, maybe a little bit worse for some areas, a little bit better in some other areas. Like it goes punch for punch against Xenoblade 2 in so many ways, but it gets the leg up because it did it first. It did the big giant world first. The combat system, obviously, it did first. It's very different. Some of the things I didn't like about Xenoblade 2, like some of the weird, quirky character designs, especially the blades in Xenoblade 2, the overly anime-ness of Xenoblade 2, like some of these things that you, like that hard pill to swallow that we talked about, Xenoblade 2, that's not an issue on Xenoblade Chronicles. Absolutely incredible. It takes itself seriously from start to finish, but still has the lighthearted moments. It's a little bit more grounded in a very realistic world. It is dire from the very start. You understand the consequences of things, and it just pushes through, and it's a massive open world to explore, and it keeps pushing you forward because you want to keep going forward. Incredible game.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that this is coming out so I can actually play it, because if you didn't own it 10 years ago, because this came out in 2010, it's kind of expensive to try and get now. Yeah. So, and you need to own a Wii or a Wii U to even be able to play it. So we'll be getting our hands on it really soon.
It'll be worth the wait.
Yeah.
It'll be worth the wait. Now, how it stands up against Xenoblade 2, being the older game, that depends on how well they remaster it.
Right, or if there's any other changes that they make.
They don't need to make any.
Okay.
They don't need to.
So there's no quality of life anything in there that needs to be done.
It's got fast travel.
It's the perfect game.
This game was one of the ones where you just get quests, you just grab them, and then you complete them as you're doing other stuff. As you're exploring, you're just completing the quest. So it becomes so easy to just continue doing stuff, and you're always getting rewarded here and there by discovering new landmarks and fighting new creatures, getting drops. Can't
wait to play this.
So amazing.
Can't wait to play this. Number 3. That was number 4. We got number 3. This is actually, I think this was number 1 on my list?
Number 1 in your list.
This was number 1 on my list.
Yeah.
It's The Witcher 3. And it's not so high on your list. I was really kind of confused about this. And I understand your reasonings for it not being number 1, but I could kind of look past that. Like, the combat's not the greatest in this game. It's really kind of floaty, and it doesn't feel like there's any impact. But I love the story behind this. I'm gonna be the book snob. The books are awesome, and then The Witcher is it takes right from that, and it's just, I love the voice acting in that game. You had mentioned there's not much variety in The Witcher in terms of environment, but I didn't mind that at all. I love the environments in this game. I love the interactions with a lot of the NPCs in this game. I like a lot of the side quests. The side quests in The Witcher 3 feel like they have impact on the story. Not only that, but they're also very interesting to me.
I agree with that entirely. Some of the best side quests in games.
In games, it's just it's a game that really is in tune with the way I like to play. The way I generally play RPGs, if there's always a character that I always gravitate to, is the battle mage, and Geralt is the prototypical battle mage. He's the sword, and he's got the magic behind it, and I think that's why I really gravitate towards this character. And I love a lot of the NPCs, like Yennefer and Ciri and all those other, like, they have a lot of cool a lot of interesting stories behind them, and it's just the story is where this is at for me, and it's done so much better than in The Witcher 2. If anyone's familiar with that, I think this is miles better.
And the immersion of The Witcher 3, if you want to get into that much darker, more realistic side of medieval fantasy, The Witcher 3 is pretty much the best of the best. You can't get any better than this. But if you want something a little bit grandier, a little bit more fantasy sprinkled into your medieval donut, then that's where kind of The Witcher. That's not what The Witcher is about, right? Yes, you're going to fight. I think the opening fight is with a griffin, right? Or,
it's something,
or a manticore or something like that.
I think it's more in tune with I think it's a griffin or something like that. It might be a manticore actually, but that's what I mean. There's so many different varieties of monsters you're fighting. Whether it's a Sylvan, which is known as a devil, like these farmers, they have no idea what it is they're talking about, and like, all right, they're ruining my crops. It's got horns. Go get it. Here's some money. Like I love it. I love it. I was just going to look up what he fought, but it doesn't even matter. That's like one of the first battles you get in. As soon as you get into the game, you're fighting this winged creature, and
and a loop is pretty satisfying because you go to town, you go to like a town, and you go up to the, I think it's like a bulletin board of sorts, and you're picking up like the little quests they have there at that particular town, and some of them will be like hunt down this crazy thing that we don't really know what it is.
Yeah, they have no idea what it is, but it is a creature of some sort, and sometimes those creatures have reasons for what they're doing, and it's like that in the books. So the way they play off their source material is perfect, absolutely perfect.
So I think this is number 2 on your list.
This was number 2 on my list, so this actually was brought up higher.
And this is pretty high up on my list too.
That's probably why it was higher. We kind of
we inflated this one, and I think this is a no-brainer for you. I think
it is a no-brainer for me.
And this one I think deserves its proper spot at number 2. I mean, I would have put Xenoblade Chronicles at number 2, but I'm happy with this one. The collaboration effort here. This definitely, I'm happy with this.
Yeah, and it's a game we rarely talk about. Divinity Original Sin 2.
Yeah.
This game, The Witcher for me is higher because I enjoy the story in that one a little bit better. But Divinity Original Sin 2 has so much freedom in that game. Where yes, it is a turn-based tactical strategy RPG, but it doesn't really feel like that to me because there is that much freedom. The environmental changes, the elevations in which you can fight, the customization is ridiculous in that game.
The combat system's just more interesting. There's more strategic options available to you and more things that you have to consider versus The Witcher, where you're really just managing a couple of consumables and figuring out what spell you want to spam to disorient. There's one particular spell, I think it's the Gust one.
Yeah.
In Witcher, it's kind of overpowered. You force the enemy to be stumbled and then
stagger them.
You get in the swing, so you're just constantly staggering them. Whereas in Divinity, like,
It's hard to do if you try to do something like that.
What happens in every single combat scenario, like things change, like the actual landscape, you have to pay attention to like what elemental pools are being laid down. Is it raining? Do you want to make it rain?
Is it raining blood?
Is it raining blood? If it's raining, then do you want to use that lightning spell? Is your own ally standing in a pool of water? Like, is there the oil somewhere? Is it going to create a dark cloud that you can't shoot through?
Is there a barrel of oil that you didn't notice and you hit it with a fire arrow and now everything's on fire?
And things explode. Like, surprises happen on the battlefield and you have to adapt to it and also use it to the best of your advantage. Like, maybe you want those flaming barrels to explode because that's where the enemies are clustered by.
Right. And if you know that they're there, sometimes you can actually move the barrels kind of ahead of time and just kind of place the battlefield before you know it's going to happen or whatever. You can actually, if you have a high enough strength, you can actually hold those barrels in your inventory and place them and throw them wherever you want to. And one thing I noticed, kind because I'm playing through it, and there are times where I'm playing through it and I get annihilated, right? So I'm like, okay, I got annihilated. I either have to get better gear or whatever, replay it again. But while I'm thinking of that, is all right, I need to get better gear. I need to level up. So I'm going to find a place where I can do that, and I can't because there are no places where you can grind, because every single enemy patch or it has meaning to it, has a side quest associated to it. There's so much meaningful enemies in this game where it's hard to find a spot to just level up. You can't. You actually have to do quests, or they turn into quests. So there's so much, like, if you want to kill an enemy, that enemy may have impact on the story and you have no idea. So there's just so much in this, and this is a kickstarted game. Yeah, essentially. I mean, Larian Studios have turned
to a Kickstarter.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was also kickstarted as well, and it's just turned into Larian Studios. This has just turned them into like AAA. They're essentially AAA at this point.
Now they're working on Baldur's Gate 3 because of the success of this particular game and how well they executed.
And if it's done in this engine or this kind, not engine, but this style, count me in.
And to put the cherry on top of this delicious cake, it is 4-player co-op. Mm-hmm. Like, how much more do you need? Like, this is when I mentioned that Tales of Grace's F is a phenomenal 4-player co-op experience, but it's real time. This is the phenomenal 4-player co-op experience that's turn-based. Like,
and that so gets overlooked in Divinity. Yeah, because it's a phenomenal single play experience, but when you have someone else playing with you, and I've done that, it's awesome.
And they can mess up your story, and it's awesome.
If you don't know them, you better be careful. Yeah. But if you're like, I had my brother-in-law playing with me, and it was a very different experience, but really an excellent experience.
Okay, so
I'm gonna back away here.
Our number one.
Yes. Okay, fine. Our number one.
Controversial. Because if you include this game on any top insert genre name here list, this will be number one. Because this game is that good. It is so good that it is probably going to be written in history forever and ever, as far as we know.
If you're listening at this point, you're probably wondering what we skipped out on, right? Like, you're wondering, like, what did they even miss?
Yeah. This is definitely, I mean, when it's the greatest game of all time, obviously it's going to be the greatest at any genre that it could categorize itself for. And absolutely, this is no doubt an RPG. It is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh my God.
All right, we can't disagree that this game is probably the best game ever made.
Without a doubt, it is a masterpiece of a game.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no question about that. Obviously the question that I have with it, and I'll take it to my grave, is whether or not it's an RPG. For the sake of discussion, I will consider it an RPG. Yep. Okay. The amount of freedom in this game is ridiculous.
Nothing matches it.
Absolutely. Even Divinity Original Sin 2, which I absolutely adore, does not match the freedom in this game. From the opening, pretty much the opening scene, the objective is already in hand. The final objective, kill Ganon. All right. Yep. I'm not spoiling anything. It's literally like the first 10 minutes of the game. Kill Ganon. That's it. That's all you have to do.
The princess is in a locked-in 100-year battle with Ganon. Save her.
That's it.
Kill the beast.
Obviously, it's not so easy. I mean, it's been done. I mean, I've seen people do it, speed running that game, and you collect gear on the way there, and they do it, but it's not easy. And yeah, there's just there's beasts that you have to what is it you have to
do? The divine beasts.
Yeah, the divine beasts, where you have to actually not tame them, but they're essentially like the original dungeons.
Yeah, you have to decorrupt them because they have the essence of Ganon in there somewhere. Right. Controlling the beast, making it not do the things that they're supposed to do, which is to fight Ganon. That's what the beasts were built for.
So they help you in the end.
And as you learn, because as you're not going directly to Ganon, you know you should, But
You can't.
you've been asleep for 100 years. You're like, all right, I don't need to do that just yet. I'm going to explore this fantastic world. And in the process of exploring the world, you're learning about the world. You're learning about why these beasts exist. You're learning about how these people continue to live, where the war that happened, what happened. You gain back your memories that was sprinkled throughout the world.
That was a really cool aspect of that game, is regaining those memories and then piecing it all kind of,
and done in a very clever way too.
Yeah. Kind of difficult too, because you had to you were just giving a small hint and you had to find it. Was just unless you were cheating, which I might have done for a couple of them, but
I didn't cheat for a single thing in that game. I feel so good for it.
And it was just a satisfying game to play.
Yeah,
it really was.
And it had pretty much anything you could imagine. Now, it didn't have big, deep, numbers and crunching and min-maxing type of mechanics that most hardcore-esque RPGs have, but it had all the elements of an RPG. You want to own a house? You can do that. You want to build up a town? You can do that. You want to do side quests for like little kids? You can do that. You want to respec your build? You can do that. You want to craft gear? You can do that. Like you want to engage in combat in so many different ways? You can do all that. You want to get better gear? You can do that. Like everything that you want in a big giant open world game. You want to sneak? You want stealth mechanics? All of that. It's all in there, and it's just a matter of how you play and the way you play. And they sort of strip out all the unnecessary, the clutter. I don't want to call it the fat, but they strip out all the fat, and they just give you the core of what is for each particular mechanic. Just the core. This is all you need.
The necessary components.
Yes, the necessary components. And for example, like weapons, they don't talk about like the attack range, the min damage that a weapon can do, the max damage, the crit multiplier that a weapon can do.
It does 10 damage. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. It just says it will do 10 damage. That's all you need to know. It'll do 10 damage. It'll crit when it's about to break. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
Like
my son is playing it, and he's the master. I don't know how he's 6 years old, and I can't even do this. He's a master at the Guardians when they go shoot their ray, at parrying it, getting it to hit them. I can do it, but he does it better. But he is, again, it's one of those things. Like he knows that this sword is better than that sword because of the numbers. It's a numbers game there.
It's simple numbers. That's the thing. Like they boil down what mechanics that other games, other RPGs make nuanced. They just say we don't need to be nuanced. This is the number, one number. Just it's bigger than the other one. You're good.
That's it.
That's it. And everything else about that weapon, it's not as straightforward as that. It's all hidden. It's all about how that weapon feels as you're swinging it. Yes, this two-hander does more damage because the number says so, but it's slower.
Yeah.
Right? It's very obvious stuff. But then it's not just that you're considering. What happens if I hold the attack button? What's going to happen then? Am I going to do a spin attack? Am I going to do like this big giant, overhead swing thing? Like every weapon has like some different more nuanced attack mechanics to it. These different attack animations that have their own usefulness. A boomerang. Normally you don't throw your weapon, but if you have a boomerang and you go to throw it, it comes back.
Yeah.
But you gotta catch it.
Yeah, you gotta time that button. Otherwise, it's like 30 feet behind you.
Blew my mind when they did that. I was like, oh my goodness. And then thunderstorms would happen.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden you start sparking up. Why am I sparking?
Yeah, it's because of that metal shield you're carrying. But again, there's so much discovery going on in that game.
Yeah.
Whether it's a new vantage point or it's a new discovery of how I'm killing something. For example, you can freeze things and hit it into an enemy or a group of enemies and have it do damage. Like there's so much experimentation and discovery involved in this game. It just makes it very unique. And
being rewarded for all the experimentation you do, because almost all of it will work.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
in one way or another.
And it's just, and I think even the developers said they were surprised at seeing how many different ways things are being things are being done. It's just crazy. It's just absolutely insane.
There are parts of the story that you can actually skip, right? Because you can beat Ganon at any point. There are quests that you can skip. There are character interaction sequences that you could miss out on. There's like so many things that you could miss. There's so many things that you could experience. It all depends on how you play. And to me, this defines role-playing games overall. You are assuming the role of Link, and you are exploring this fantastical world that's full of life, but also devoid of life because there was this big giant calamity that happened.
Right.
And you're discovering new things, you're interacting with people, you're sneaking into cities that you shouldn't sneak into in very interesting ways.
Right.
It's just so out there.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. We could go on for a long time about Breath of the Wild.
It's the number one on a very fantastic list of top 20 games of the decade.
35 essentially. Or 34, whatever it is.
Well, the honorable mentions are not ranked.
But they're there.
They're there. They're honorable.
Oh man, what a great list. I love doing this. This was awesome. But I think that's going to wrap it up here today. So yeah, don't forget, we have that AMA going on January 6th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, like I said, that's going to wrap up the episode today. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you. I'm not going to say that part. I do this all the time.
Don't worry about it.
I just read everything.
You could read it again.
I'm going to read it again. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you for everyone who sent in their questions and comments. I did it again. Keep them coming. Remember, you can listen to the show each and every week at switchrpg.com, or you can subscribe on your favorite podcast app. If you listen on an app, please give us a rating and review. We want to climb up those charts on those platforms, so your support would be amazing. And finally, remember, you can head over to switchrpg.com for all your RPG needs on the Nintendo Switch. Until next time, see you later. Bye.